Blood Prince, Chapter 2. The castle was completely quiet, with all the soldiers making their rounds and keeping the citizens who lived in the city in check. As far as the king knew, there was no war occurring that involved him. The only problem he had at the moment was trying to find his son. Prince Durzo always enjoyed hiding somewhere around the castle and waited for his father to find him. I swear that kid is getting too old for this shit. Then again, I'm also getting too old for this shit. As of now, Prince was 16, while the king himself was 38. They have been playing hide and seek ever since the prince was only 30. When he was younger, the prince could just hide from the king. Now the prince makes it more fun by adding a duel in once the king found him. Durzo, you best get out here right now, or else you aren't getting that 2,000 gold, I promise you. He knew his son was greedy and wouldn't pass the temptation of gold up. Sounds of creaking boards can be heard from above. The king drew his sword. It was the standard silver longsword of his armor. I want my money! The king looked up and saw Durzo crashing down with his sword out. Durzo carried a katana. It was a lighter blade than the king's, but it could be swung faster. Durzo's blade was also cursed. The blade was blood red and the sword had a powerful ability. It could drain the blood of an enemy and use it to heal the wielder. You might have cheated to find me, but I don't care. I hope you keep your word and pay up, old man. The king wasn't fazed by such a remark. He wasn't known to be a liar, so there was no doubt he would pay. Before he pays, he must duel. He dodged the downward swipe and counters with a jab to the stomach. Durzo blocked and tried again with a series of quick swipes. The king backed up and continued to do so. Since Durzo could swing his katana faster than the king could block, he could do to dodge. I see your style hasn't changed since the last time, son. Durzo always used the same attack style. Quick series of swipes and downward thrusts is all Durzo cockiness led him into leaving an opening. The king always noticed it and he just waited for the opening. Time to finish this, son. You did well, but not well enough. The king slashed at Durzo and connected with its face. The blade cut the left side of Durzo's face. It didn't go deep, but deep enough to draw blood. Durzo backed off and sheathed his blade. He knew he was defeated by his father once again. How many times did this make? If Durzo didn't remember, then why would he think his father would? I think it was... Actually, I forgot as well. The king did know the number it was. It was about 820th time he had lost. The king couldn't bear to tell his son. He knew that the only thing Durzo wanted to do was to become the greatest swordsman out there. According to one of the generals, Durzo was the best swords fighter he has ever seen, with the exception of the king, of course. Durzo leaves the room. He couldn't bear to be in the same room with his father, knowing he just lost. The boy tries too hard. He also punishes himself too hard. A noise is made and the king sees General Suka coming towards him. Suka was only 18, but she was very strong and very smart. She used her looks to blind people. The king used her for spying missions. I see that you managed to beat your son again, sire. He laughed at such a thing. I did, but I had hoped he would be able to defeat me. I hate to see him in such a depressed mood. Suka smiled. Maybe I can cheer him up. The king thought of many ways she could do such a thing, but before he said anything about it, she disappeared and was off to find Durzo. The task was not too hard for her. In a mere 2 minutes, she found him on top of the castle staring at the stars. His short black hair and brown eyes was something she would never forget. As she crept her way towards him, he turned and saw her. Her green hair and sapphire-colored eyes were impossible to miss. Did your father send for you? Did my father send for you? She shook her head no. I figured I would find you and cheer you up. He laughed. I can think of a few ways for you to cheer me up. She slapped him across the face. I didn't mean that kind of cheering up. His face turned bright red as she turned away. I wasn't even... He stopped, and she turns towards him. He was looking at the field. There he saw an army moving towards the city. Get my father, and have him gather the guards. We must defend the city. Suka began to move back to the king, but stopped. What are you going to do? Durzo was halfway down the castle, but she could hear what he said. I'm going down to the city and kick some ass!